Hey everyone, I've been debating whether I should share this or not. But after weeks of processing everything, I think I'm finally ready. I'm not even sure what I'm looking for from this post, but maybe just some clarity or a sense that I'm not completely losing my mind. So let me give you some context. I, 28 ma'am, live in a pretty quiet neighborhood, a suburb just far enough from the city to make it feel like an escape. The kind of place where everyone knows each other. You bump into people at the grocery store, and there's a sense of normalcy. That's exactly what I thought my life was. Pretty normal, boring even. I didn't mind. I had a decent job I could handle, a small group of friends who didn't ask for much, and a place I could finally call my own after years of moving around. Nothing was perfect, but it worked. But then she showed up. My sister, Amy, 32F. I should have known things would get complicated the moment I heard she was moving in. She had been living across the country for years, and to be honest, I didn't think I'd see her again after all the mess that happened a few years ago. But life doesn't care about what you think, does it? She told me it was temporary, some work transition thing, and needed a place to stay for a while. I agreed, figuring it would be a couple of weeks, maybe a month. No big deal. People move back in with family all the time. But in the back of my mind, I had a nagging feeling. Something didn't feel right, but I shrugged it off. At first, everything seemed okay. Amy was her usual self, loud, energetic, a little too involved in everything I did. I couldn't really remember the last time we spent time together, but it felt okay. At least, that's how it felt at first. But then things started changing. Small things at first. She'd rearrange the kitchen without asking, leaving her stuff around like it was her place. And then the weird comments. Like, she'd ask questions that felt too personal for someone who hadn't been part of my life in years. How's your dating life? Are you still stuck in that job you hate? It wasn't just innocent curiosity. It felt like she was poking around, trying to dig into things I wasn't ready to talk about. And then came the real problem. It started when Amy introduced me to her new friend, Linda. Linda was different, older, loud, kind of brash. Honestly, I wasn't sure what Amy saw in her, but she insisted they were good for each other. Over time, Linda would pop in and out of the house. No big deal, right? Except, over time, I started to feel like I was becoming invisible in my own space. One night, I walked into the living room to grab something from the fridge, and I found them, Amy and Linda, sitting there whispering. Not in an, I have a secret way, more like a, we're excluding you from this thing way. I could feel it, like there was a shift in the air, a tension I couldn't put my finger on. It all hit me when Amy asked me to leave my own room. She needed it for Linda's kids, she said. They can't sleep in the guest room because of the old furniture, and the living room is too noisy. I don't even know why I agreed at first. I guess I thought it was just temporary, a night or two, and then everything would go back to normal. But it didn't. Days turned into weeks. I couldn't even use my own space without someone else coming in or taking it over. Linda's kids, who I had never met, started rummaging through my stuff, making a mess, and I was constantly asked to accommodate their needs. It felt like the boundaries I had worked so hard to maintain were completely gone. And the worst part, Amy didn't even see the problem. She would brush it off like I was being unreasonable. I thought I could handle it. After all, she was my sister, right? But something in me snapped when I realized I had been completely disregarded in my own home. I was supposed to just be fine with it all, to go along with whatever Amy wanted, and to sacrifice my space for her convenience. But it wasn't just the space anymore, it was the principle. So I told her no. No, I wouldn't leave my room. No, I wasn't going to let Linda's kids turn my life upside down. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought we'd have a conversation, and she'd see where I was coming from. But instead, Amy did the exact opposite. She told me to leave. I remember the way she said it, like it was no big deal. If you're not willing to be reasonable, maybe you should find somewhere else to stay. It hit me like a punch to the gut. Amy had always been the type to manipulate situations to get what she wanted. But this felt different. It felt like a betrayal. I had opened my door to her when she needed a place to stay, and this was how she repaid me, by telling me to leave my own home. I tried to keep my voice calm, to reason with her. Amy, you can't be serious. I've been nothing but accommodating, and now you want me to leave just because I asked for some boundaries? She didn't even look at me when she responded. She was too busy making herself a cup of coffee, casually throwing the words over her shoulder. I just think you're being dramatic. This is temporary. You're not even here half the time anyway, so what's the big deal? I could feel the anger rising in my chest. My heart was pounding. I had been quiet for so long, putting up with things I didn't like, hoping it would all just go away. But this was it. This was the line. I didn't leave. Instead, I packed a bag and went to a friend's place for the night. I needed space. I needed to think, to figure out if this was really happening, or if I was just overreacting. I never expected my sister would ask me to leave, especially when I had been the one making sacrifices for her. The next morning, I texted her, "We need to talk." Her response? A one-word reply, "Fine." When I got back to the house, things were tense. I tried to sit down with her to talk like adults, but Amy wasn't having it. Her eyes were cold. The kind of look you give someone you've already written off. She started, "You know, you really need to get over yourself. It's just a few days of inconvenience. I didn't think you'd make such a big deal out of it." I could hear the sarcasm in her voice. It wasn't just about the room anymore. It was about respect, about boundaries, about me realizing that I'd been letting her walk all over me for far too long. "Amy, you're not hearing me," I said, my voice shaking now. "This isn't about the room. It's about how you've treated me. I've let you stay here, and I've been more than patient. But you keep crossing the line, and you don't even seem to care." She looked at me like I was speaking another language. "Why are you acting like I've done something wrong? I'm just living my life, and you're making it so much harder than it needs to be." That was when I realized I wasn't going to get through to her. She was so deep in her own world, her own drama with Linda and her kids, that she couldn't see how much she was hurting me. It felt like a punch to the gut again. I was supposed to be her family, right? The one person she could count on. But instead, she was choosing everyone else over me. That night, after another argument that went nowhere, I made a decision. I couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't live in a space where I felt constantly belittled, ignored, and pushed aside. I called a moving company the next day. I wasn't just moving out, I was taking control. But even as I packed my things, there was something nagging at me. Something about Amy's behavior felt off. This wasn't just about the room or the temporary inconvenience. There was something more going on beneath the surface, and that's when I started to dig. I didn't confront her right away. I wasn't sure how to ask the right questions without it all blowing up in my face, but I noticed more and more strange things as I continued to live there, things that didn't add up. One evening, I was cleaning out the fridge, an oddly mundane task, but I needed something to occupy my mind. That's when I found it. Tucked behind the leftovers, wedged in between the jars of sauces, was a note. A handwritten note from Linda. The note wasn't long, but it was enough. It read, "We need to talk about the next steps. It's time to make him feel unwelcome." The words hit me like a brick. Unwelcome. What the hell was that supposed to mean? My stomach dropped. It felt like I was unraveling a thread that led to something far darker than just family drama. I knew Amy was close with Linda, but this felt like betrayal on a whole new level. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I knew I had to confront her. I had to know the truth. So I asked. Amy wasn't home when I found the note, but when she came back, I didn't waste time. "Amy, what's going on with you and Linda?" She froze in the doorway, her eyes flicking to the note on the counter, then back to me. Her face went pale. "Nothing," she muttered quickly. "It's nothing. You're just overthinking things." But I knew her too well. The defensive posture, the way she couldn't look me in the eye, it all said enough. This wasn't anything. Something was happening, and I wasn't going to let it slide. And then she said it. "You don't get it, do you? You're in the way. Linda and I have plans, and you're not part of them." I could feel the air thickening around us. For the first time in a long while, I was completely speechless. "You've been so busy playing the perfect little brother," Amy said, her voice laced with something I hadn't heard before. "Resentment, maybe, but you never noticed. You never saw what was really going on." I stood there, dumbfounded. My thoughts were spinning, but nothing seemed to make sense. "What do you mean, what was really going on?" I asked, my voice low but demanding. "You've been treating me like I'm the problem, but I'm not. I'm just asking for some basic respect. What is this all about, Amy?" She let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head. "You've always been so blind. You never understood how much I had to take care of on my own. Mom was never around. Dad, absent, and you, always busy, always caught up in your own world. I had to keep everything together. But you were the golden child, always getting everything handed to you. I had to fight for scraps, and now I'm fighting for my own happiness." I took a step back, my heart pounding in my chest. "Happiness, is that what this is about? You're kicking me out of my own house because of happiness? Because you and Linda have some sort of twisted plan I don't know about?" Amy crossed her arms, her face twisting with a mix of anger and something else. Something I couldn't quite place. "Yes, I'm tired of always playing the martyr. I'm tired of being the one who sacrifices everything. And Linda gets it. She sees me for who I really am. I can't keep living like this, under your shadow." There was a long silence. The weight of her words crushed me. All these years, I thought she just needed a little help, a little support, but it seemed like she had been building up this resentment for a long time. For the first time, I realized that this wasn't about boundaries or me being a bad brother. This was about her needing something more, something I couldn't give her. But the real punch came next. And about Linda's kids, Amy's voice dropped to a whisper, almost like she didn't want to admit it, but couldn't help herself. "I'm going to need more from you. We need this house. All of us." I stared at her, my mind reeling. More? What did she mean by that? I had barely enough space to breathe. And now, she wanted more. "Are you saying you're planning on moving in with Linda?" I asked, though part of me already knew the answer. She didn't deny it. Instead, she said the words that broke me. "It's not just about moving in. We're all going to make this work. We need a place to settle down. And you're not part of that picture anymore." My heart dropped. I wasn't just being kicked out of the house. I was being erased from her life. I could feel my anger bubbling up. All this time, I had thought that Amy just needed me. I thought she was going through a rough patch, just like the old times. But this was betrayal in the most painful form. I wasn't just her brother anymore. I was nothing to her. "Is this really happening?" I asked, my voice thick with disbelief. "You're kicking me out, for Linda's family, for some new life you've built with her, and I don't even know who you are anymore." Amy didn't flinch. She stood there, cold, resolute. "I've been trying to protect you for years, but you never wanted to see it. You're not part of my life anymore. I've moved on." The words felt like a slap to the face, but they were also a wake-up call. This wasn't just a family squabble. This was Amy making a choice. She had chosen Linda. She had chosen a new life. And I was out. I turned away. I couldn't even look at her anymore. "Fine," I said, my voice trembling with a mix of rage and sorrow. "If that's how it is, I'm gone. Don't worry about me." I grabbed my things and left, the last shred of my relationship with Amy crumbling as I stepped out of that door. But even as I walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been twisted, that this wasn't just about me and her anymore. There was something darker, something manipulative at play. I didn't know it then, but I was about to uncover the truth. I spent the next few days crashing at a friend's place, figuring out what my next steps were. My mind was a blur. And for the first time in my life, I felt completely alone. I didn't know where I stood with my family anymore. The person who had always been my sister, the one I grew up with, was now a stranger, someone I didn't recognize. But then came the call. It was Linda. I almost didn't answer, but something in my gut told me I needed to. "We need to talk," she said, her voice surprisingly calm. "There are things you don't know." I didn't hesitate. What do you mean, things I don't know? What's going on with you and Amy? And why the hell was I kicked out of my own house? She sighed heavily on the other end of the line. It's not just about the house, it's about everything that's been building up over the years. Amy and I have made some choices. Choices you didn't see, but you need to know about. I felt a lump in my throat. What are you talking about? And then Linda dropped the bombshell. Your sister's been seeing someone else, someone you know. My head spun as Linda's words hit me like a freight train. I couldn't process it. What do you mean, someone I know? What the hell is going on? Linda was quiet for a long moment, like she was weighing how much to reveal. When she finally spoke, her voice was strangely calm, almost too calm. Amy's been seeing Rich, your brother. The words hung in the air, too heavy for me to catch. I could feel the floor beneath me shift, my vision blurring as if the ground was crumbling away. What? I whispered, the word barely leaving my lips. Rich, my brother. Yes, Linda said, matter-of-factly. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. Amy and Rich have been seeing each other for months. You never saw it, did you? All those late nights when she said she was out with friends, or when he'd pop by for a visit. They were sneaking around, and now, well, now they've made their choice. I couldn't breathe. The air felt thick, suffocating. I couldn't wrap my mind around what Linda was saying. My own brother, the person who had been by my side through so much, had been having an affair with my sister. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was something darker, something twisted. Why are you telling me this? I asked, barely able to keep my voice steady. What do you want me to do with this information? Linda sighed again, her tone softening just a fraction. Because you need to know the truth. I didn't agree with it, but Amy, she's made her choices. And now, with everything going on, you're in the way. You were always in the way, whether you knew it or not. I could hear the bitterness in her voice, the underlying venom that she'd been holding on to. I was in the way, I repeated, trying to comprehend. So what now? Is this why they kicked me out? Because I was in the way of their, whatever this is. Linda didn't answer right away, and I could feel the weight of the silence. I'm sorry, she said finally, though her apology felt empty. But it's over. For you, for Amy, for all of it. You're better off without them. I hung up the phone, the weight of everything crashing down on me like a tidal wave. My world, my family, had just shattered into pieces, and there was nothing left to hold on to. I spent the next few days in a haze, trying to make sense of everything, but nothing made sense. I tried calling Amy, tried to reach out, but she wouldn't answer. When she finally did, I could hear the coldness in her voice. I don't want to talk about it, she said. What's done is done. There's no going back. I felt a surge of anger, of pain, but it wasn't just anger at her. It was at myself, too. I had been blind. I had been so focused on trying to make things right, on trying to fix the relationship, that I didn't even see the destruction happening right under my nose. You really think this is the end? I said, my voice shaking with a mix of fury and heartbreak. You think I'm just going to walk away from this? From you? From us? Yes, she replied flatly. I do. It's over. And that was it. That was the last time we spoke. My sister, the person I had trusted most in the world, was gone, along with any hope of a future with her. Story 2. My sister went crazy when I refused to accompany her down the aisle because she forbade my boyfriend from attending her wedding, since her fiancé's brother dislikes him. I am a 25-year-old woman who met my 26-year-old partner in college 7 years ago. We have been dating for 5 years. He and my family are quite close. He has attended my niece's births, christenings, Christmas breaks, and other significant events. Despite our commitment and happiness together, we are both waiting to be married until we are financially stable and established in our jobs. My sister, a 31-year-old woman, has been engaged for 6 months and has been with her fiancé for 2 years. Since she was a little child, my sister has had aspirations of getting married. She only wanted to get married, regardless of who made the proposal. Marriage has never been a priority for me. I'm content as long as I have a steady job and a satisfying relationship. She deceived me into going on a double date with her fiancé and his brother at the start of their relationship. It was obviously not supper with her and a friend, as she had said. I informed the brother that I had a boyfriend, and the whole thing made me uneasy. The brother continued to make advances at me the entire time. My partner saw that the brother was gazing at me non-stop throughout their engagement party, so we made every effort to stay away from him. This guy has always been strange to me when I've seen him. I was desired by my sister, 2 brothers, and my twin fraternal attended the wedding. The wedding is scheduled for early May of next month. I was been informed by my sister that I will be walking down the aisle beside her fiancé's brother. I assumed I would be going for a stroll with my own brother, and I informed her that he made me uneasy. It seems that she wants to please her fiancé, who is adamant about this. I know there's some sort of plot between the 2 brothers, but it seems like a really strange thing to insist on. My other siblings expressed their disapproval of our sister, believing it to be strange as well. She became agitated and declared that she would do as she pleased because it was her wedding. My partner was upset for me when I told him this, although he is self-assured enough to know that this man would never be a rival. He is aware of my uneasiness in this circumstance. We had a family meal at my mom's place the other day. With my mother there, I used this as a chance to bring up the aisle problem. My sister became very agitated and began to scream, accusing me of attempting to destroy her marriage. Like everyone else, I was perplexed and attempted to explain that he causes a great deal of discomfort for both my partner and me. She went on to say that I would no longer be allowed to attend her wedding with my boyfriend, and that I would no longer be eligible to be a bridesmaid if I did. She didn't explain why I couldn't bring him, and my siblings were equally disappointed because they prefer my boyfriend over my sister's fiancé. She hasn't altered her mind, despite my intention to allow her a few days to collect herself and reconsider. The girlfriend of my 19-year-old brother is still invited to the wedding. My sister has received nothing but generosity and kindness from my amazing boyfriend. Despite his damaged sentiments, he still wants me to attend the wedding. My sister is acting like an unreasonable jerk, and if my life partner isn't attending the wedding, I'll be furious. I can live without being one of her bridesmaids. So should I travel with or without my boyfriend? Or should I insist that she is being really unjust and that my partner be permitted to attend her wedding? Although I like my sister, I don't understand why her scary brother-in-law is making such a ridiculous request. My family isn't helping either, and I have no idea what to do. A few days ago, I provided an update about my sister's statement that I am not allowed to attend her wedding if I bring my 5-year boyfriend. Although that article has since been taken down, I will give a brief overview of the problem because it has gotten out of hand. I've previously been the target of many sexual approaches from the brother of my sister's fiancé, which my sister has supported. I was duped into going on a double date by her. My partner and I have a really serious relationship, and we want to be married eventually. I've always felt uneasy with the brother, so I try to avoid him as much as possible. At that point, my sister made the decision that I would accompany him down the aisle rather than my brother. That was the initial idea. We are all 4 siblings, 2 gals, 2 guys. At the family supper, I informed her that I didn't want to do that. There was some argument. She was in tears. Then Mom stated that I would no longer be a bridesmaid if I brought my boyfriend to the wedding. Although the majority of the comments advised me not to attend the wedding at all, I don't want to miss my sister's wedding. My brothers and I went to my parents' house and informed them everything that the brother-in-law had done. My sister's contempt for my relationship makes me feel really uneasy. My dad is on my side and was quite upset over the date trick she did. But according to my mother, I should attempt to work this out with her since people will speak if I'm not in the wedding party. To be honest, I couldn't care less about the opinions of my extended family. My mother summoned my sister and my twin to the house for a family gathering. She said that it's what her fiancé wants and that she only wants to please him. When my dad questioned her about why I was no longer going for walks with my brother, I brought up the fact that he is really strange and that I wouldn't be shocked if he attempted to attack me, as well as why it is such a huge deal for me to walk with him. She was pretty annoyed by that. She began screaming and weeping while uttering a lot of bullshit. We're attempting to destroy her big day since this is all she's ever wanted, etc. I just responded, I'll attend the wedding as a guest, since I was sick of the arguments. I will then depart before to the reception. My younger brother and twin sided with me, stating that they would prefer not to attend the wedding if I did. My sister went completely crazy because of this. She started yelling at me and called my partner derogatory terms that I am not allowed to mention on this sub. I made the decision to go and let my parents soothe her, but she rushed at me and pulled my hair before I could go, still yelling. I yanked hers as well since she wouldn't let go. It seems that I messed up her extensions and tore out portion of her hair. I struck her in the face as she attempted to grab me once again. I hit her without intending to. It was simply my first response when someone approached me. She now has a cut on her cheek, a black eye, and considerable hair loss. Next week is her bachelorette party, and she is furious. My mother is upset with me. My father isn't. Now, my sister is threatening to file charges against me. Is she only attempting to frighten me, or is she really capable of doing that? The fact that my other siblings will not be attending the wedding has further infuriated Mom. She promised to let me go with my brother if I apologized to my mother and consented to attend the wedding. That seems like nonsense to me. At the last minute, she will still force me to go on a stroll with my brother-in-law. I don't want to go at all right now because I think it's not worth the hassle, since they are funding the wedding and want all of their children to attend. My parents want me to comply with her request. Although my younger brother and twin claimed they would follow my wishes, I don't believe I should be the reason they choose not to travel. Even though none of this turmoil is his fault, my lover feels like he initiated it. I'm at a loss for what to do because my sister feels that I ruined her wedding. Therefore, there are 3 options: attend the wedding as a guest, attend the wedding yourself, or do not attend. I don't want any more stress, and my parents will be upset if I don't go. However, she treated me disrespectfully in our relationship. I'm going to cut off communication with her as soon as this wedding is over. The second update. Before the wedding, the first part of this is written, and the second part will be written after the wedding. I want to start by saying that when I first posted this a few days ago, I had no idea it had become so popular. Even though there were only roughly 30 comments, I've since seen thousands and gotten a ton of messages. Additionally, I've read comments and received messages complaining that I don't answer questions or respond to people. I don't believe I have to respond to anyone. People have told me they hope my sister strikes me again, that I should have her imprisoned, or that I should yell rape at her wedding, among other wild suggestions. All of these are intriguing, but regrettably, this is my actual life and not a film. I will attempt to address any queries in this post. Race is not a problem, despite some people's questions to the contrary. My family is Puerto Rican and French. My sister's fiancé is white, and my boyfriend is Italian. I don't know what his ethnicity is. There was also some uncertainty concerning my siblings. I am one of 5 kids. My twin is a girl. I believe it was misread when I mentioned 2 gals, 2 guys. I meant that alongside my sister being married. There was 4 of us walking down the aisle. I kept saying twin instead of sister, so she wouldn't get confused with the one getting married. My sister is second oldest. Also, don't believe money is an issue either. My family is middle class, not wealthy. Because I attended college, and she did not, her wedding is being paid for, while mine is not. My tuition was mostly covered by them, and I also don't desire a lavish wedding. There is no way to get their money back because the wedding has already been paid for some time. Some people also questioned why they don't take their money away from her for this behavior. At her bachelorette party, my sister applied a lot of makeup, moved the location to a darker area, and still had a black eye. Instead, my best friend, my twin brothers, and I went to the club that evening, had a great time, and got smashed. According to her companion, she was telling everyone that she was struck by a car door rather than my fist. My sister has always had some mental health issues. She and my twin used to often argue while she was in high school. My sister has always been devastated and shut down after a divorce. She believed her life was ended. Since she was 12, I have witnessed this. I would frequently argue with my parents over their tolerance of her behavior, which finally led me to choose to go to college on the other side of the nation. I hardly ever spoke to her when I was in college. She had grown up by the time I returned home, and our connection had been positive for some time. Even now, she still gets really upset about little things like this wedding. My prospective brother-in-law did not reply when I texted him to ask why he and his brother are so fixated on me. My sister was the one who kept telling my dad that I was intrigued and would break up with my boyfriend, he claimed when he came down to his apartment. Therefore, I'm not even sure who of them thought up this scheme. My father became enraged and warned him to stop bothering me and my partner. For years, I have advised my sister to attend treatment, but she has refused. My mom also declined when I asked her to see if she could persuade her to accompany me to family therapy, but she promised to speak with my mom and me. When she initially began dating her fiancé, he invited his brother along, and I went to the New Year's celebration she took him to. Her first lover who ever shown interest in marriage was this one. My sister jumped right in on the brother's statement that he thought I was really pretty. I'm not in a serious relationship, she informed him. After 3 years together, my lover had a good chance with me and is exactly my type. False. He has therefore believed that my partner is only a stand-in, which is completely untrue. He shares my sister's delusions. I couldn't understand why she did this, due to the fact that my twin is not dating. Because we are fraternal, our appearances, heights, and personalities are all completely different. She is still unmarried and a really attractive girl nonetheless. My sister may be attempting to end our relationship since she has shown signs of jealousy over the years. About a month ago, she started saying that she would never have what I had with my partner. She discovered she was pregnant just before giving her ultimatum. I had no idea. She believes her fiancé will leave her if she doesn't force this brother thing to happen. Furthermore, she finds being a single mother scarier than her family's hatred for her. She does have other alternatives, but for some reason, she's committed to this while it's still early enough. This was a heated discussion that covered a variety of topics. So, before my patience ran out, this was all I could pull out of her. You're so sad that you date any guy who looks at you, and you still can't find a healthy relationship. And I can, I added, kind of snapping at her. Before you go into labor, you will get divorced. Yes, that was a bit cruel, but I wanted to say something worse since I was so angry at the time. Despite all the nonsense my sister's throwing at him, my boyfriend is quite insistent that we attend the wedding. Despite not having a strong relationship with his brothers, my boyfriend has always enjoyed being a member of this family. In order to avoid regretting it later, he wants me to keep up my contact with mine. Even so, he was still upset that my sister had gone to such extreme measures to remove him from the situation. I've done my best to tell him that I would always love him, and that everyone still does. As guests, we will attend the ceremony and depart as soon as they say I do. As a trio, my twin sister, 2 brothers, and I are walking. We all looked excellent in the wedding photos we shot at a park, so our parents would have a photo of us. They will give it some thought before deciding whether or not to stay for the entire wedding. In order to keep an eye on his brother and chat with him, my elder brother is staying the entire time. Many people suggested that my partner pop the question at her wedding, but I don't care enough to want to sabotage it on purpose. That will do absolutely nothing to improve the issue. Furthermore, I genuinely don't want a proposition that is made public, and that strikes me as rather tacky. My partner and I have simply been having fun and not giving a damn about any of this nonsense. I can easily kick my sister's ass if she attacks me again, so I'm not scared about it happening. I don't know why she screwed around in the first place, because she can't fight for stuff. Others questioned whether it wasn't incestuous for sisters to date brothers. However, it's not at all. Additionally, I have cousins who are sisters' spouses. Saying it isn't incest at all doesn't excuse the actions. Since I wasn't going to go buy another bridesmaid dress, I wore mine to the wedding. It's also a really lovely outfit. In an effort to reduce the number of relatives who would ask me why I wasn't attending the wedding, my partner and I tried to arrive as late as possible. A few aunts and uncles inquired, so I simply replied that my sister had gone insane and that I had tried to remain with some cousins, to whom I explained what had happened and how. Sometimes my sister can be a nut. Given that some of their significant others were only dates, those who learned that my boyfriend's invitation had been canceled were furious. My sister, her husband, and the brother were able to observe me with my extremely serious, attractive, wonderful, and affectionate boyfriend. Since we were seated in the first row, he made sure I was all right and held my hand the entire time. I just got confirmation from this wedding that I don't want a large wedding. At most, we can hold a party. The brother just looked at me once, and as soon as they all walked back down the aisle, I kissed my partner to immediately put a stop to it. We departed after I bid farewell to those who earned it. We enjoyed ourselves while dancing at a pub. To be able to say "I told you so," I'm happy I attended the wedding. In 6 months, this marriage will come to an end. That will never be the man I love. Therefore, I'm delighted that naive SOB witnessed me kissing him. My twin was being quite mouthy with my sister after having a lot of drinks during the wedding. She would have spoken with or without alcohol, but I didn't ask her to. I wasn't at the reception because my sister cheated on me, according to my younger brother, who told practically every member of the family. I'm not sure what my elder brother said to the brother-in-law, but he did speak with him. This is all they told me, and I didn't ask many further questions. To be honest, I feel terrible for my sister. Using a poor quality bottom feeder, she baby-trapped herself. There is nothing about that man that would motivate me to go through all of this. His disposition is like that of an Adidas sandal. I wish my sister had elevated her standards and shown more self-respect. Regarding their relationship, and if he is abusive, I don't know anything. If nothing else, I'd like to think she respects herself enough to not tolerate it. They could be in love. She may be being used by him. Who knows? She is now committed to him for the next 18 years, even if this marriage may not endure. Although my brother is a single father and doing well, I can see her justification for not wanting to be a single mother. It will be a long time before I speak to her again. They didn't get me with the sibling, so I'm not sure how things worked out for them. They refused to give me definitive answers, even after I cried, so I'm not sure how serious the husband is about his worthless brother being laid. Until they were teenagers, the brothers were either neglected or nursed. My partner and I were originally planning to take a summer vacation, but I may decide to prolong it now. For laughs and shits, you may even get married in France. Anyway, I appreciate all of your help. I apologize that the conclusion wasn't as dramatic as you all had hoped. I don't anticipate an apology. I genuinely don't care anymore. All I want is to be happy, go on with my life, and stop putting up with any more insane behavior. I'm simply relieved that I have a wonderful man, and that neither my mother nor my brother-in-law have sent me any messages. Please feel free to ask any questions I may have overlooked. My partner and I laughed at several of your remarks. Story 3. I was not invited to my toxic sister's wedding because I am too attractive. In response, I severed our relationship, secretly organized my own wedding, and left her out. 3 months ago, my sister, 34, and her husband, 36, were married. I, a 30-year-old woman, was named maid of honor. Being jobless at the time, I took on the most of the labor since I was so thrilled to assist her organize her wedding. She's a doctor too. She didn't have a wedding planner, but I won't go into specifics. The days before the wedding were entirely mine. The bride's treatment of me made me miserable. Because she was the bride, I felt like she could kick about, like I was her own personal slave. You don't get away with being a witch just because you're married. She's probably just anxious, so I kept reminding myself to keep my mouth shut and maintain the peace, even though I wanted to leave the wedding party several times. She invited my brother's partners, who have only been together for 2 or 3 years, instead of my fiancé, despite the fact that we have been together for 12 years, despite the fact that I have done so much for her. I don't know my sister and her partner very well because they dated for a year before they got engaged. Since everyone has been pushing us to get married for a while, she said she didn't want my fiancé around since they would be inquiring about my own wedding. Until she apologized and invited my fiancé, which she did not precisely truly do. I refused to do any more work for the wedding. I was wounded. Since it was expected of me to assist, she didn't even express gratitude for whatever I had done for her and her ideal wedding. When the wedding day finally arrived, everything went smoothly. The couple seemed pleased, and the ceremony was lovely. My sister's success made me joyful. When we arrived at the reception location, I saw that my fiancé and I were seated at a different table from my relatives. I was pushed aside to sit at the furthest table, which was practically next to the kitchen, while they were at the VIP table. Since the bride was in charge of the seating arrangement, I assumed there had been an error and politely inquired about it. "There's no mistake," she continued, staring me in the eye. "We should be there, far afar, and at the children's table." The children sat with us, ranged in age from 7 to 14. When my sister delivered him this, the groom remained silent, even though he had overheard us and agreed with me. "You dare not argue with me. Take a look." The groom didn't say a thing to me because his bride instructed him not to. But he did apologize to my parents at the end of the night for what had occurred to me and claimed he had no idea his bride had done it. I would not give a maid of honor speech, but I chose to ignore the situation and attempt to enjoy the rest of the evening with my partner. When my parents realized where I was, they were agitated as well. When my siblings learned I wasn't giving a speech, they didn't bother searching for me or asking why I wasn't sat at their table. Even though they knew I wasn't there, my 2 brothers approached my table and reprimanded me, telling me that I needed to comprehend my sister's situation and the pressures of being a bride. Since it's her special day and you only get to be a bride once, treat her with kindness. Yes, exactly. However, I wager that they will divorce me since I am a shame and a repulsive letdown for not giving my sister a speech, that my sister would be upset with me. Additionally, I was being self-centered by making the evening about myself, even though I was the only one in our corner. I was obviously not enjoying myself, so we got up and went. I shared a tale about our post-wedding meal at McDonald's, where we ended up having burgers for dinner. To avoid giving the impression that I abandoned, I made sure to upload it after the reception was over, but my siblings took this as an insult to my sister. In some way, even now, the bride claims that she put one there for a reason and that she did nothing wrong. I deserve to sit there because I didn't exactly plan her wedding the way she had envisioned it. She told me she wanted to do everything while I was doing it. The fact that I looked lovely in my gown annoyed her. Third, I had to pay for my insistence on bringing my fiancé. I wanted to give my whole attention to her wedding, so I didn't start planning my own yet. In addition, she forbade me from marrying before her because I didn't want the drama, and she's older now. I consented, but at this point, I only want my parents and a select group of close friends present. My siblings are upset and accuse me of being childish, but my parents support me. However, I simply don't feel like paying for jerks, to be perfectly honest. My fiancé and I are covering all of the costs for our destination wedding. I don't feel like spending money on these people because these are our savings. They are all arguing that I'm mistaken, as are my grandparents and cousins. But why would you be upset if I excluded you from my sister's wedding in return? If no one cared if I wasn't invited as a sibling? Let's ask the community for some pertinent feedback. First off, apart from the problems with the OP wedding plans, your sister's strong distaste for your fiancé might be the cause of everything. Regarding my fiancé, the OP responds that nothing he done to her justifies such harsh treatment. My mom and I both adore him, and we began dating when we were pretty young. He remains my favorite person to this day and was my best buddy for a long time. Because she thought that my disability would prevent me from ever getting married, my sister always detested the fact that I had a partner before she did. I have epilepsy. She immediately married her first lover because she wanted children as soon as possible. Given that she is now 34 and that getting married before the age of 30 was her ambition, she went so far as to begin organizing and scheduling vendors before he even asked her to marry him. So basically, she's quite nuts. Her behaviors are always based on envy and the assumption that I shouldn't be allowed to have anything if she hasn't got them first, since she's the eldest. That is, boyfriend engagement, wedding, kids, etc. That's why she stated I couldn't be married before her, since it was already a smack in her face that I got engaged younger than her. Basically, she hates that I'm pleased. She doesn't detest him, she hates me. One update. Hello once more. I'll respond to some inquiries and provide a brief update. I am a 30-year-old woman from a household of 5 children. I really have 2 sisters, ages 34 and 32, and 2 brothers, ages 26 and 22. But I didn't bring this up since I didn't think it was very important. My sisters, a bit more. They are the closest of pals. As the middle child with 2 younger brothers, they are the epitome of sisterly affection. Why, therefore, did I accept the position of maid of honor? Well, because I believed it would strengthen our bond. This, in my opinion, was her attempt to act more like a sister to me. Stories of the sisterly closeness are common at weddings, and since it was what they had, I made an effort to foster it. My brothers also shared the sibling closeness with one another. I seize any moment I get to spend time with my sisters. I'm not being a doormat so much as I'm just feeling excluded. I grew up largely with my parents since I was a very ill child, but my siblings would go out, make friends, and do other things that they were envious of. My parents don't seem to be close to them. The bride couldn't decide between us, so she appointed both of us as maids of honor. Later on, I discovered that I was just chosen as maid of honor and was always the backup plan. As a result, I put in all the work while the other maid of honor received all the recognition, which I should have anticipated in retrospect. Sister 2 is making her own maid of honor speech, stating how much she loves the bride and would stop at nothing to help her, while my brothers were busy berating me for doing my maid of honor speech. That kind of shit. Conveniently, she then summons each sibling to the stage to give the bride and newlyweds a toast. I was weeping and running away from my brothers at that time. I was making a big deal out of it and making it about myself, according to the other family present. No, she has previously harmed me. As a youngster, she called me a potato and fat-shamed me, saying things like, my epilepsy was a burden to the family. Even though I'm a professional architect with a master's degree, they called me the stupid low IQ sister and threw all of my makeup in the sink and soaked it because I had moved her bath towel in the bathroom. I lost my ideal church when her male buddies wanted to get my number. For this reason, my fiancé suggested that we have a destination wedding in my ideal nation. In front of my whole family, it's just the worst thing she's ever done to me. Furthermore, we haven't communicated since then. Furthermore, she continues to insist that I was the one who spoiled everything by becoming irate over the seats. The update is now available. We're going to run away. Only the 2 of us and a few close friends who have supported us since the start of our relationship. With the people we care about, we'll have a small church wedding and a beachside celebration. After that, our entire group went island hopping across the Philippines with our selected family. We will cover all costs as I will be spending money on experiences and memories for those who care about and value us. and small 5-day wedding celebration on a Philippine island will be funded using the money we laid aside for an Italian wedding. 2. When we get home, we shall have our reception with the family. The next weekend, we'll invite both of our large families to a luncheon. This would amount to a maximum of 80 visitors. Our parents both wanted to contribute to the cost of the rehearsal dinner and engagement party. Instead, they decided to cover the cost of this lunch and celebration, so they could invite everyone they wanted. They are in charge of the guest list. I won't give a damn whether my siblings are invited, since I'll be too busy spending 1 to 2 weeks with my spouse by then. In addition to a few other activities like cake slicing, we can still have the father-daughter dance here. There will be piñatas, a pizza cart, a brick oven, coffee, pretzels, and a fantastic Italian buffet with a pasta bar. Cheese with lots of fresh fruit. Who doesn't enjoy cheese? Have you ever seen a Mamma Mia seating chart? Yes, since my siblings will all be gathered at their own siblings' table. Imagine a long wedding table where they can be as far away from me as possible and as near to the service area as possible without being seen. My fiancé and his 2 brothers will be in the middle, with our parents at our sides. My amazing siblings will be at the end of the table, by the toilets, where they belong. I have nothing left for them, not even resentment. Therefore, I could care less whether they are invited to this lunch. I would feel more for a random person on the street than for these individuals because I'm so over them. It's apathy. I've been harmed by them so frequently that I've become indifferent to them. 3. Bridezillas are not permitted. In exchange, my sister expects to be my maid of honor. Since my siblings will not be attending the ceremony, it is most definitely not going to happen. I don't require her presence. She is not someone I want around. Yes, she will probably be asked to the reception as a favor, but as I did, I'll make sure she's put aside. In what way? I'm organizing my wedding around her due date because we recently learned that she is pregnant. Fortunately, her due date is in June, which is actually the month we wanted. She will thus be at the kiddie table and ordered to leave if she chooses to go with her husband and a newborn. When the infant begins to cry, our wedding day is ultimately for us, and the only option is to elope. Without having to deal with my siblings or other family matters, I think we could just sit and enjoy our wonderful day together. After we return, have a get-together lunch, which is really just a meal to me, with some delicious food and enjoyment. Fortunately, my fiancé's family isn't as crazy as mine. That's it. I appreciate all of your letters, remarks, and wisdom. I thought I was overreacting at the time, and I was actually going a little crazy. However, I really appreciate the clarity. I hope this emotionally taxing year comes to a close. 9 months later, the final update. I promise that this is the earliest I could post, even though I know many of you have been waiting. I apologize. I will explain. I swear, I had a great time organizing the wedding with my spouse. Cheers. Have a simple wedding if you ever decide to tie the knot. I promise you'll live longer. We informed our loved ones that we were delaying the wedding and that we want to attend a destination bachelorette party first. They were unaware that we were genuinely getting married while traveling. For some U.S. time, we arrived in Boracay 3 days ahead of everyone else. We engaged in all of the enjoyable island activities when our guests arrived. We requested everyone to dress in tropical beach attire for adorable photos and to be up at 7 o'clock for breakfast the night before our wedding. We instructed them to pack things in advance. When everyone arrived, the husband announced that we would be being married at 4 p.m. And in reality, this was an elopement. One of our favorite memories will always be the excitement from all of our friends. Having people who truly care about you is the nicest feeling in the world. We girls sobbed, embraced, and did each other's hair and makeup. We had our phones and an old digital camera that we'd pass around. And that was it for our event shots. As the lads enjoyed themselves while playing football and drinking, we liked surprises. We both decided to do the same for our wedding because it was so adorable when we first started dating. Even though I adore flowers, I didn't want to waste my time looking for a provider there. We had assistance with all of the requirements, but that was about it. Instead, I merely purchased flowers for the luncheon. In order to surprise me, my spouse chose to talk with the hotel. He created the most beautiful bouquet ever, knowing my favorite flowers. Additionally, he had the church packed. And when I arrived for my husband, I wrecked my makeup by sobbing uncontrollably. I made sure to fly his brothers out to surprise him, as well because he is really close to them. I was glad to have them there since he needed his best guy. After exchanging ideas, we went to the hotel for a boodle fight and dinner on the beach. Go ahead and Google that. It's excellent. Not much, but we were content. The elopement preceded by the meal. I didn't want our family GC to cause a scene on the day, so I texted them my seating arrangement. Everyone assumed that these were our reception's seating arrangements. This is where my pettiness comes out. We, our parents, and my husband's brother made up my head table. At each end of the long table sat my siblings. However, the breastfeeding area table in the rear with my sister's name on the chair was my favorite smack in the face. She was furious. I just said that I was watching out for her. She wanted some privacy, as I expected. No animosity, only planning ahead. My elopement was viewed as disrespectful by my siblings, who declined to attend, particularly with my brothers-in-law around. They informed our family members not to come via phone. Others disagreed with our union and were angry that I could harm a family in that way. I'm pleased to say that just 58 of the 127 guests were attending. Thus, I more than halved my budget. To me, that seems like a victory. My husband's little family farm served as the site, and it was so lovely that I didn't have to spend any money on decor. The music was only a playlist on Spotify. We took pictures. My pals were at the prenuptial ceremony, the beach, and lunch. 2 nights before flowers, Mom and I cooked a cake. I made arrangements with my girlfriends. After purchasing myself at the morning market, I just had one outfit in my closet: food. Instead of presents, we invited folks to bring potluck dinners if they so desired. Instead of hiring a caterer, we continued to use the coffee bar, pretzel cart, and pizza oven that we had purchased. We created the invites and emailed them. Only Bridezilla's husband received an invitation because none of my siblings wanted to go, and there was no way for a +1 to go. A week prior to my wedding, she was scheduled to have a C-section. Was she aware that I had scheduled her absence from the luncheon? Indeed, she did indeed. It was enchanted. They were even more offended by us being so unmoved. However, I've come to understand that the more loudly you attempt to persuade others to agree with your viewpoints and story, the more poisonous, insane, and egotistical you are. I didn't have to leave. They all choose not to communicate with me. Thus, I have no touch with them. I didn't have to make an effort. Blessings everywhere. For people who are accusing my parents, my siblings weren't ignored at all. If anything, they allowed my siblings a great deal more time and flexibility to make up for all the care I need. Keep in mind that these children are now fully grown adults. My folks are elderly. They're worn out. My siblings were reprimanded for being enormous, obscene holes. What more are they able to do? Really, put a timeout on them. Instead, our parents provided us with a down payment on a property since they both wanted to help. We shocked them by giving a man Paulo a week's vacation in exchange. We wanted to express our gratitude for their love and support because we saved so much money from our wedding and luncheon. Last but not least, additional food and flowers were either contributed or taken home by visitors. That only added to the specialness of it all. The theme of weddings is love. We made sure to honor our love for our family, best friends, and dogs, who were the main attraction, as well as the fact that our favorite people were present to celebrate us. Actually, for my siblings, I wholeheartedly accept this life of tranquility, serenity, and apathy. I have no idea what they're doing. Apologies. I was removed from the group chat, and the only way I knew my sister gave birth is because my brother-in-law told me she did. The last I heard, they were still attempting to disparage my spouse, but we didn't give a damn. We've moved on. It's awful for them. they haven't. I appreciate everyone following along. It was fascinating to learn that this kind of sibling violence isn't very common, and it was empowering to know I wasn't alone. Your feline table made of honor is this. At last, I'm going to sign off. In YouTube videos, I was informed that this reached TikTok. So if this reaches you, family, good, PBS, this is a major reason I was unable to provide you with an update. 2 cases of morning sickness. Let's now receive some pertinent feedback. I do have a follow-up inquiry first. They were not invited to the destination wedding in Italy that was discussed in the original piece. What gives them reason to believe it? The reception would be where they would be. The OP responds that they received an invitation to Italy. Family members are almost always invited at weddings, unless all of them are like me. They were also aware of our original plans. Naturally, nothing was finalized since, as I already stated, I gave her wedding first priority and didn't make any plans for my own. After the wedding of my sister, since my posts were all about family, I made the decision to figure out how to uninvite them or ensure that they don't go while they still think they were invited. If I didn't invite them, I would be the biggest jerk. As previously said, they felt that they were still needed at the wedding and that it was reasonable that they would attend the reception. Please take the time to read. In response, the OP talks about how her parents looked for her siblings when she was ill. I appreciate your thoughts, but I genuinely don't think my parents are at all to blame. It is impossible for me to describe the specifics of my childhood or the quality of my parents. What if I can't persuade you? Okay. However, I will always stand up for my parents in this regard. If you claim they experienced trauma, well, I never treated them badly, and I endured far greater trauma as a child with epilepsy.